of Broward County. ALICE is an acronym for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. As legal document preparers, we are also keenly aware of this particular demographic. These are our customers, consumers who do not qualify for free legal assistance because they are employed, but also cannot afford an attorney. They struggle with legal access as pro se litigants. Today, Lars is going to share with us how we can help be part of the solution.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
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 And so, question. I'm usually able to project pretty well. Can you hear me pretty well in the back?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll just let go of this then. And so, if you didn't have an opportunity to pick up some of the packets at the back, there's been some around from the front, and there's also some in the back, so you can take some and pass it around. Half of those. There we go. Very good. So, I hope to cover a couple different things here. So, just as a background, I come from a family of small business owners, and actually I moved to Florida to work with small businesses to help them start and grow their business. So while I'm here to talk to you about completely separate things today, my goal in the end of this is that I'm able to provide some new information or partnership possibilities for you to be able to grow your business. Because in the end, that's kind of why you're here, right? Like, how do you operate your business in a more effective, efficient way, build your networks, etc., so that you can be more stable, offer a better quality product, be more stable and successful in what you do. What I would like to do, and this is a side note, so you're getting an executive summary of our report. I've got like 5 of these, so if you want the full electronic version, it's going to be, there's the link at the bottom of this. You can find it there, and if you wanted a hard copy, I've got a few of these here as well. Because in the end, I want to be able to give you some of the information. There's more in the back that hopefully people can help push forward. The coffee front area, I guess. So I want to be able to provide some information with some context. And again, I don't want to give you more bad news, but unfortunately that's kind of my job to a certain extent. So we'll end with the good news. Just keep that focus in mind. But I want to be able to share a little bit with you kind of what's happening in the state and some things that you might be able to join in on. So one of the things, and again, I don't know about for you, but for me, I've got a whole bookshelf full of reports that I haven't fully read. I've got a whole file in my email that, like, oh, that's great stuff, I can use that, and I never get around to it. And so, United Way's in Florida, we're very cautious about asking for another report, because in the end, we don't need another report, but oftentimes we do need good information to be able to make better decisions, and that's always a difficult case. Back before I worked with United Way, when I actually ran a small business, I moved to South Florida again to work with small business owners. And I lived here up until the recession. And during the recession, I was working in nonprofit, and who we were serving radically changed. Before that, most of the people that we were serving were traditional people that were in poverty, that were struggling, and as a chronic and even a generational issue that we were helping them work through. During the recession and since, we've found that there's a whole new group of people needing help, and it's this new normal. And we're trying to change the conversation in our community, in our country, around this, because so often, and you hear in the public domain about people in poverty, and they just get lumped in there, and they get left out of the conversation as we move forward. And I won't ask, but I would say a lot of us probably identify as middle class. 9 out of 10 Americans in the U.S. identify as middle class. In my mind, the definition of middle class is that you can consistently meet your debts and your obligations without constant stress. There's a lot of people that don't meet that standard. And we know that, we experience that, we serve them, we are that oftentimes, our family, our friends are, and yet there's not really a way to look at it. We see poverty, middle class, and wealth. And those are the only options. And so what do we have? We know we're not poor, we know we're not rich. Well, I guess I'm middle class by default. And we're trying to change that conversation. How many of you are familiar with the federal poverty level? Okay, a little bit. Again, as bad as your forms are, the federal poverty level hasn't been updated in 41 years. So most of the documents, and certainly the websites, have been updated a little bit more frequently than that, but yet the base for a lot of free legal assistance, federal standards, state standards, county standards are based off of the federal poverty level, and it hasn't been updated in 41 years, and it treats Orange County in Florida the same way as Orange County over in California. Radically different. And Broward and Broward, totally different counties within one state. And we've got this old, out-of-date information that a lot of these things are being based on. So we wanted to change the conversation because here in Florida, we're now the third largest state in the nation, but we do not have some of the best third best solutions, third best economy, third best hardly anything. In fact, we're often third worst or the worst on so many things. And it's great to be number one, but not on the bad things, quite honestly. So we wanted to be able to change the conversation around this, about what it actually costs to live. And actually, I handed everything out. So let me quickly, so this is kind of a broken down PowerPoint. Is there any extras of these? I'm going to go grab. The first page there, just to let you know, thank you so much. The first page, the first slide there is looking at what we consider in the report, in the threshold. Because again, the federal poverty level is the floor and it's broken. So we're trying to set a ceiling for who really is struggling in Florida, and not just in Florida, but every single county. We have a budget that is unique for every county, 67 counties in Florida. What does it cost to live in your community? What does it cost to survive? And as you'll see there's no student debt repayments. And especially in our community, student debt is a big thing. There's no credit card debt. There's no savings to replace your car. There's no health care premium. There's a lot of things that happen in life. And so can we survive at this level? Absolutely. But for how long before we have to rely on friends and family, and local church, United Way, the government? You end up having to rely on someone because living at this level for very long is not sustainable, but you can survive. And when we looked at this, when we used that standard, and the next slide shows you just here in one of the 67 counties, even with that, a unique budget for every county, at least 30% of every county in Florida is underneath that threshold. 30%. When we look at the state overall, we knew that about 15% of our households were in poverty, which is horrible. Another 30% though were above poverty, but below this threshold for their county. So 45% of our state underneath what it takes to independently survive. Well, how do people make ends meet then? Well, unfortunately, a lot of us know, and we maybe even had to make this decision ourselves. Do you keep insurance on the car that you hope you don't have to use, or put gas in the car that you need to be able to get to that client, or to that job, or to drop off your kids? No? When you talk about the evictions and whatnot, are those bad people? No. But if you have to choose sometimes between feeding your kids consistently, getting to work, etc., and paying your rent, if you know if you get evicted here, you can go somewhere else, and you can just keep on trying to keep one foot in front of the next, the costs get passed on to someone else, and oftentimes the costs impact other Alice families more than anybody else. And so you have someone that tries to buy a property and do better for their life, but then they get impacted by somebody else's difficult decisions. Our state cannot survive this. We've got nearly half of our states that are struggling in this way. That is a challenge. So if you flip over to the next page there, you can see a bit more of the information. When I'm talking about at least 30%, that little graph of the Florida, you can kind of see how it's spread out over the state. We've got obviously lots more information on that. One of the things that we wanted that motivated us to look more deeply into this issue was that as much as we were desperate, we come out of the recession, like the cone of death has passed us by, right? You're like, woo! Blue skies, finally, where's that good news? Let's see that good news. And we're waiting for it. And we're waiting for it. Okay, well, unemployment levels are dropping. That's great. How's it feel any better? And we're still waiting for it. What we found is that 4% more of our population right after the recession still, as it was coming to end, and it's still coming, I'll go there, 4% more of our households were in poverty. 5% more were above poverty, but below what we identified it takes to survive in these counties independently. From 2012 to now, we've had every major metropolitan area in Florida, and most of the rural ones as well. Our poverty levels are going up. As our unemployment levels are cut to almost half, our poverty levels are going up. Why is that? Because we've got such a large ALIS population that when that one person hits you, when you have to do a larger repair than you expected, when you have a larger medical bill than you had planned for, when you were sick and you have a job that doesn't have paid time off, or your kid was sick, and then you lose that money, and maybe they're not happy, and so they let you go. And so now, one little issue of cold can very quickly turn into, I've lost where I live, I've lost my stability, I've lost my self-respect sometimes, and it crushes us. And this is what we're struggling with right now, that even while our economy is improving, so many people are so close to the edge that one little life thing just bumps them over. And this is something that has consequences, not just for individuals. We know when it happens to us, that it's horrible and it's frustrating, that we only have so much emotional, mental bandwidth. Because I don't know it for you, but when I'm stressed, I make not the best decisions. When I'm working really hard and I'm traveling a lot, there's a lot better chance I'm swinging through McDonald's. That's not the best food choice that I could make. But when I'm stressed, it's easy. I take less thinking, less preparation, all this kind of stuff. And so for those that are more and more stressed, the worse decision they end up making. And as you were discussing just earlier this morning, you have people that are adding more stress to people that are already stressed out, denying justice to those that most need it and can most benefit from it. So things are getting worse. Great news, right? Why is this such a big problem? Go to the next page. Again, we're starting with the bad news and we're building up to the good stuff. Third largest state in the nation, fourth largest economy. We just passed New York on the side, but not the economy for a long time. We've got so many entry-level jobs. And if you don't have experience, entry-level jobs are great. Because, like, well, we can't hire you, you have no experience. Well, how do I get the experience? Well, that's great. We've got lots of entry-level jobs, a lot of agricultural and service jobs. But that means that 69% of our jobs pay less than $20 an hour. 54% less than $15 an hour. That the average wage here in Florida, again, median wage, so 50% of jobs pay, was it $13.68? Half of our jobs in Broward County, I just highlight there, that's one of the better counties. It's not that much better. $15.03. But don't worry, it balances out. And this is where oftentimes it's not so much about Democrat, Republican in our state as it is North and South. And partly what we're trying to do is change the conversation. It's not about, this county versus that county or whatever it is. We're all struggling. So we look at the state average, not just the income. Again, just like in business, it's not just what you make, it's what you spend, right? Both of those have to work out, otherwise you're in a pretty bad shape. For our housing is our biggest cost for most people. The average price rent, even actually a little bit below average price rent, if you are making the median wage in Florida, you have to work 57 hours a week, every week of the year, so that you're not cost burdened, so that rent doesn't explode your budget and put you at risk of everything else. In Broward, where better wages, the housing prices are so much more that you have to actually work 61 hours a week to not break even, to not have your budget exploded. So when we're looking at this, there's no one county that gets away with murder on this stuff. When I moved to Florida, oh my gosh. So I had this nice little Camaro in Nebraska. I had great insurance. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was a young kid. I was a Camaro. It was my grandma's Camaro, by the way. So I wasn't reckless in buying it. I moved to South Texas, and my insurance doubled. It was horrible. Then I moved to Florida, and I got a little Suzuki. They make cars, but not just lawnmowers. And that little Suzuki, with half the number of cylinders, all this other stuff, I paid twice as much insurance in South Florida than I did in Texas, for a much smaller sweeter, poorer, sadder cars. And it made me so sad. And I was like, oh, if only I lived in some of these other counties around Florida that wasn't, there, then I would pay less. But did you know that there's a lot of counties in Florida where 30, 40, even over 50% of those that work either have to be outside of their county to get to their jobs? So their insurance might be less, but their gas, their maintenance, all these other things are higher. So we've got a lot of people, transportation costs are higher in rural communities than in the urban communities with high insurance rates. So in the end, this is not about them. This is about us. Again, like poverty, this is not about them. This is Alice. This hotel would not operate without Alice. We would not have jobs without Alice. Our family are Alice. This is not a bad thing. It's just unsustainable for long periods of time because there's no savings in that budget. There's no debt repayment. There's no, how do you want to offer a brighter future for your kids? It's a challenge. And we live in a cheap state. Let's be blunt. We think that there's no difference between cheap and value. I think most of us that have lived a few years, we're like, no, that's not the same thing. One good meal might be worth 4 crappy meals. I'll completely pass on those. One good pair of shoes, yeah, I can go get 3 or so cheap ones, or pay a little bit more, go to DSW, get a higher quality shoe that lasts a little longer, whatever it might be. You can still save money, but there's a difference between price and value. And we're trying to change that conversation in our state. Because Texas, very conservative state, they had an economy that was based on just a few types of jobs and whatnot. 30, 40 years ago, they got slammed. They've learned from their lesson. Right now, they're investing 10 times what Florida is on economic development, on social justice, criminal reform. You name it. They're investing in their state. And right now, our elected officials still haven't gotten that. And they don't get up on any number of points, including justice issues. Things have to change. So while I'm bringing this up, and this is a lot of economic issues, it ties into so many other things. And housing is just going to make this worse. And again, you may not care about housing. There's some housing stuff in here. There's quite a bit in the report. But in the end, we are the most cost-burdened state in the nation. Because again, your price of housing as it relates to your wage, we are more out of whack in Florida than any other state in the nation. It's going to get worse. Because we are blessed that we're going to have so many senior citizens coming here to retire, more snowbirds. That's great. But at the same time, are they going to be wanting a bigger, better house? Or, you know what, now that the kids are gone, let's streamline a little bit. So those affordable 1-2 bedroom places, who has got better credit? Who's got better experience? Who's got the resources to get those? Who needs those same places? Those young parents. The young moms that are working their asses off, trying to provide for their kids, trying to be in a safe neighborhood. So in the end, we're looking at some of these same issues from different perspectives about how do we provide opportunity for justice for all. I was just, a couple weeks ago, I was just driving back from, I helped a friend in a car with no AC, drive from Chicago through Selma to St. Augustine, South Florida. True friend. But it was amazing. We spent half a day in Selma, and this is the 50th year of the Voters' Rights Act. And it's amazing. And I was getting jazzed up about, man, what can we do to get people to vote? Because people sacrifice their lives and their futures and their reputations. People can have a voice. But as I'm hearing this morning, as I hear more of the work that you do, people's voice is being squelched by non-elected officials. That they're much more difficult for them to address. When we're talking about Alice, this is not just about an economic issue, although at the same time, the more people believe in themselves, the more financial opportunity, the more stability that they have, the more that they can fight for their voice, the more that they can use their voice. But we want to do better. We want to change the conversation. So this back part here, when we talk about awareness, access, and advocacy, this is the model that we are using to try to change our state and our community around this. And I would encourage you to consider how this model might work for you and also how we might join efforts for our state, for justice, and for your business, quite honestly. Awareness. How many people know what Pro Se is? Right? But sometimes it's just knowing is half the battle, and you can't jump into what needs to change before they even know what that is, right? So it's about awareness before we move on to anything else. Access is about how do we improve easy access to things that already exist. So if that form already exists, how can people more easily get to it? If that answer exists, how do people more easily get to it? On my side of the equation, did you know that, how many of you know about free tax preparation or VITA, Voluntary Income Tax Assistance Program? Things for a few of you know. This is something that I hope you can add to your Rolodex of things that you can offer, and I've got a whole bunch of other things like that. Anybody that you know that makes less than $60,000, well, right, exactly. You know, okay. Qualify for free tax preparation. MyFreeTaxes.com. It works for you. Got a Schedule C for your business. You own a home. You can do all those taxes through that same software. You say, I'm not comfortable doing it on the computer by myself. You have to find someone to help me. During tax season, and right now, like there's very few sites that are still open. There are some, but especially starting in January and February, you go to myfreetaxes.com. There'll be a place to enter in your zip code to find someone the nearest person. Now, obviously, in the rural places it's a little harder, but at the same time, myfreetaxes.com. If you can set up Facebook account, you can actually do your own taxes. It is and it's amazing that. Just like with legal documents, you don't need a degree from Cornell to be able to do your taxes, and you don't need it to do some of the forms. But sometimes you need the confidence to do that, and this will step you through. I have never paid anyone ever to do my taxes. I started doing my own taxes when I was 16 years old, and it's been a few years since then. And so I've kept on doing that for home, business, whatever it might be, and I've learned to help other people do that. Those also sound like your colleagues. How can you possibly partner with them? We'll talk a little bit about that. But from raising awareness to improving access, sometimes it's just knowing where to go and how to access it, building partnerships. In the end, it's a broken system. What do we do? And so one of the things that first connected me with you all was the Florida Commission on Access to Civil Justice. And I think just the fact that we're the 38th state to finally tackle this shows that we're a little bit behind the times. But the Supreme Court reached out and said, who can help find the stories? Well, we can find some of them, we can't find all of them, and that's why I found Ruth. And she found you all. And so in the end, those stories are great. However, what specific recommendations do you have? Do you think that the direction they're going isn't working? What can we do to help? And so, again, I'm trying to be mindful of the time here. I'm right on time. I'm happy with that. So I want to highlight a few different partnership opportunities that I think exist that can advance some of your work, that can connect you into larger work I'm pretty sure that you're passionate about. And if we had time to talk about not just where you're from and some recent stories, but about why you got into this work in the first place. I think we have to find some amazing things, and I'd love to reconnect you back to that driving initial purpose. And or where have you seen injustice, and have you ever felt disenfranchised? Do you can't do something about it? I'd like to discuss a little bit about how we can address that moving forward. So with the Supreme Court and the Civil Justice Project, if you think that they're missing the mark, let us know. How many of you have heard United Way before, by the way? Okay, good. Not free taxes, but United Way? One, two. So United Way, it is an international organization. In Florida, we are the largest private nonprofit foundation. There are 34 United Ways, two of them really bitty, and we don't really talk about. They don't talk about it, it's actually the issue. And they're the rich ones, and they just don't play well with anybody, but 32 of us really play nicely together. And we cover all the rest of the counties. And guess who works with United Way? The elected officials, the banks, the business, the movers and the shakers, the nonprofits, the school board. You name it, they're connected to United Way. And United Way is about as nonpartisan as you can get because we can't piss anybody off. But at the same time, who can deny the justice of this work? And the people, especially Alice, that we've gotten front page on 20 or so newspapers across Florida The Drudge Report picked it up, and a couple million more people got that. We've had, I think, 60 or 70 TV and radio interviews about this over the last year. There's great awareness, especially with elected officials. Of the House and Senate, as dysfunctional as they are, they know about this. And it makes it so much faster and easier for us to bring issues to them. So if we have access, and also on that Supreme Court's committee, the General Counsel from Publix, and anyway, there's a whole bunch of other people that are on that committee that we have connections with. And so if they're heading in the wrong direction, and if your individual voices are not being heard, if you can give us a specific actionable recommendation that is kind of like selling in a lot of ways, especially, we're happy to bring these things up. Because every time that I come and do presentations, and again, I usually focus more on the bad news because sometimes they don't get the bad news, and they're so focused on the happy stuff that they miss what people are really wrestling with. But you see that after we get through that, then they ask me, first thing, what do I do? And I've got things for them to do, but I need more. And I need more things for different types of people, and that's where you all can be helpful in this. So again, with that, there's opportunities. On the special needs population advocates, how many of you have referral relationships with special need advocates or populations, those with developmental disabilities, veterans, whatnot? Okay, if you don't, I would encourage you to get it because, I'm guessing that you spend, well, I think that's a question. How many of you have space for another, 15, 20% extra work? So you can, you're not maxing yourself out. You can make some more money. You can make some more clients. But at the same time, finding those new clients takes time and energy. And so oftentimes, I think one of the things that we possibly partner with is on who those partners are and where you can get them. I was just talking with and actually there's an insurance agent that and again, I know this much about it. You know way more than I do on this, but about those with children with developmental disabilities that are permanently and totally disabled, about how they used to have to file for guardianship rights and protections has changed and is cheaper and easier, but people don't know about this. This is a great opportunity for you to getting that word out there and saving people that are so at risk from more pain and suffering and unnecessary payments to lawyers that don't need that extra money. Let that come to you. Great opportunities there. Tremendous, lots of different types of partners that you can be working with. I'm going to get back to my notes. On elderly. So by 2030, a fifth, 20% of the U.S. will be 65 or older. We're almost there already. And by 2025, we will have more people over 85 that are under 5 years old. So if you do not have special ways of reaching out to, getting referrals from senior populations, you may want to work on that, because that's going to be a massive market pretty darn soon. AARP, they operate some of the largest tax prep sites. So if you want to bring in those two things together, stay nice with the AARP. Find ways to do free education about what people can do. So that, again, if people know what's available for them, they still may not want to try to do it all on their own. They probably will want help. But sometimes it's building those relationships. We've got loss leader presentations so that it brings in the relationships, the referrals, etc. Foster system. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible situation that's there. There's a lot of regulations that are changing. But there's a lot of people that need help. There's guardian ad litem that need help. But there's just not always the support there, not always the direction. So again, there's other, let me bring it out to you. What are special populations that you do reach out to, you've had some success in?
I'm involved with the Children's Home Society, actually, with the foster care. I just brought a young girl into my home, 17-year-old girl, but she is, so there's the Children's Home Society, which is all over Florida. And not just the children, but if you can reach out to their parents that need that full extra guidance, I'm a huge, huge advocate for the Children's Home Society. I also am really close to counseling early careers for veterans. These are people that help the veterans, our young veterans that are coming back from Iraq with the post.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
They always look at me, I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not pregnant, I'm sorry, maybe you were, I don't know. But there's also senior consultants out there that are advocating for these senior citizens, and I'm really involved with another one called the Granddaughter's Promise, and her grandmother was killed in the nursing home. So we are heavily involved with our vets and our seniors and the children in our county. So give up some of your time. I mean, literally, you can give 2-3 hours a week to help out people. It goes a long way for you as well.
I have been working with a lot of charities. I donate my time because I can't donate my money. So I donate my time, and I have made so many good connections and so many referrals from that, because everybody that is associated with the charity doesn't really have money, unless they're the ones giving the money. But Mothers Against Suicide, a lot of times when somebody passes away from an accident like that, they don't end up, their marriage doesn't stay together. They need somebody they can go to, if they don't have the money anymore either, to help them through that process. And one of the other charities I do is organ donor awareness. And, those people are receiving organs from somebody that passed away, that gave that organ, and there's a lot of connections to charities.
One question. How many of you feel that you are excellent at sales? Okay, this is good then, because I was just realizing, I'm presupposing that you're good at this. Because in the end, no matter how many prospects people will share with you, unless you find a sales technique that works for you, I didn't come here to talk about sales, but my undergrad's in marketing. Again, this is what I love to do. I love to sell, because if you've got a great idea, if you've got a great product or service, that is good news. Why wouldn't you want people to talk about it? And how would you not want other people to talk about it for you? And so again, find a style that works for you. But when we're talking about building advocates and awareness, I would encourage you, how many of you consistently, when you had a client serve you, asked them, how pleased were you with this? Like, what's your value? How many of you do that?
We don't have that.
So when you either ask or they tell you, do you look at them and say, thank you so much. Do you know somebody else that would benefit from this? How many do that? Okay, so how you can improve on that? So this is another thing. Again, where people are satisfied, people love to help others, but sometimes we just don't know how. And so that simple connection of helping your client to say, if this has been good for you, who do you care about that you could help with just this little bit of information? You don't have to do the documents for them. I'll help with that. But just share my information, or share that even if they're another part of the state, we're part of an association that can find a quality person to be able to help them in their community with their specific issue. That same type of thing. As you build relationships with nonprofits and other people. So on the veterans thing right now, SSVS, Supportive Services for Veterans and Families, is an initiative. It's a national initiative in the Tampa Bay area, in South Florida, in Orlando, and some other communities. There's a lot of money being invested into this, and they've got councils that serve, and they've got a lot of lawyers on those. And there are a lot of lawyers providing pro bono services. But there's not enough pro bono hours to serve all the legal needs. That is an amazing opportunity to help those that have served us and to serve them. It's an affordable option for them to get justice. And I think there's a lot of great ways to plug in there, and again, high volume of referrals over there. And just as a note, by the way, and again, sometimes you can only try a venue so often before you say, that's not the direction I'm going to head. Use us, and again, if I can help facilitate something, I'm working with American Bar Association. Not for them, with them. I'm working with you. They've invited me They nationally invited me to speak at one of their local events at University of Miami, because the ADA has an anti-poverty initiative, multiple actually, and they're trying to understand how they can combat poverty. And I'm going to try to help them see that it's not just about poverty. You got to look at this whole population, and you can't serve this whole population. And so I'm going to be talking to them about you. However, if there are specific ways for partnerships, if there's ways to have turn lawyers from adversaries to referral partners, great. How can we do this more of that? How can we do it collectively? Because converting one at a time is very time intensive. How can we do that more collectively as a group, have group conversations and whatnot? And I love your idea when you talk about the ambassadors, when you're talking about the sheets, how do we engage some of the lawyers in that conversation to be our advocates for us so that you're not the ones always out there pushing, but they can become advocates and whatnot. And if there's anything that we can do to support that, we absolutely would love to. There's a meeting I'll be presenting October 2nd, but then I'll also be in conversations with a round table November 13th. There's also one on November 6th. There's lots of these conversations coming up, so I'd love to insert your interest in these. How many of you work with community development coalitions or housing groups? Okay, that's good. Community development groups are from the community, by the community, for the community. And they often will look at workers' rights, they will look at justice issues, housing, other things like that. They have no clue who you are, and they have no clue how to help you. Find your local CDCs, Affordable Housing Coalition. I would love to connect you with them. They are the largest group, like Habitat for Humanity. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are applying to the 26 Habitat for Humanity organizations in Florida, and they can only serve a small amount of them, both because of the number of houses, but also because of judgment, other issues that are happening in their lives. How many of you deal with debt issues? So did you know that we are the only state in the nation that if someone got messed up with a payday lender, that you can tell them, stop, I'm working on a payment plan. It will give you 60 days to breathe, to work with a debt consolidation group or whatnot, and you possibly, depending on your insurance and bonding levels, could be this to get a plan to repay. And then all collections efforts, all interest, all everything stops. We're the only state in the nation that has this available to us. But how many people are aware of it? How many people do it? Similarly, how many people are aware that people can file their own legal paperwork, that they can do these different things on their own, and there's some support to do it that isn't the lawyer? Where do your clients go to? How do you spend once a quarter time thinking out? Where do your clients also go? And reaching out to those partners for referral relationships. If not, that could be a great opportunity. Last 2 or 3 things here, because I know I'm going to be running out of time. How many of you have heard of the Florida Prosperity Partnership? Florida Prosperity Partnership, I happen to be on the board, but I would have referred to them anyway. They're a group that is bringing together all kinds of people, all kinds of organizations, from housing, consumer debt, financial education, employment, disability, basic needs, legal assistance, you name it. And they're saying, how do we promote a more prosperous Florida? How do we overcome the barriers that are in people's lives? How do we provide equal access to opportunity for a good quality life for all? If you're part of that, there's going to be regional meetings here, and I can give this with the group, but you can also find it on their website. From the first one's in Fort Pierce, October 15th, and going through February 2nd in Jacksonville, there are going to be regional meetings across the state for this partnership. I would offer that if you're interested, I'm happy to negotiate how all of you can be connected to those meetings. They're free meetings. Still make some new partnerships, make some new connections. And I would love to see this group on the agenda at every one of those meetings, and have one of you be able to stand up and say, this is what's available for the community. How can we work together? How would that be for advocating advocates, but also getting some referrals? And if that works, they've got a conference June 1st through 3rd in Orlando next year that I would love to have a plenary session or a breakup session where partners can more actively have a conversation, where you can train them on how to partner with you and how to work with you. This is a great group. They do a lot of work. I think there's some opportunities there. How many of you work with your local United Way? Another opportunity. So again, this one's a little bit more nuanced. I'll just put it that way. But I'm happy to help in any way, shape, or form. And again, how you approach different types of clients matters, right? Again, sales. How you approach one person. Like again, I didn't come in my shorts and polo today because I would not have expressed the correct. Because I know I'm not wearing my tie. Like I don't see a lot of ties. I'm not wearing my tie. I'm trying to be appropriate for my audience, right? So similarly, there may be an appropriate way and time and relationship to build those relationships. I'm happy to help navigate you through that with those United Ways around the state. They invest in education, income, and health. Almost all of them fund the legal aid groups in their communities. What I would like to be doing is, if we want to do a webinar for all of them to make some introductions about what can people do in a pro se way. If you want to set up an individual meeting to be able to connect with them, find out who their impact partners are. They have quarterly or annual times where they bring all those people together and they highlight resources. Would you like to be one of those resources that they highlight? There's lots of different ways to go in, and again, it's about relationships, right? And so, how can you help them be successful with their mission? And get the difference between networking and like web working. Are you going in there to get as many cards as you can, or to focus on a few relationships and help them to be successful? Because I guarantee you, just like with your client, when you offer someone a great experience, they want to do anything they can to make you successful. And want to offer you connections that you can do that across the state and in your community. And just as another note there, open enrollment is coming up. And there's a lot of legal issues that are tied with that. People are not being denied health access for legal reasons. There's some legal aid groups that are working on this, but not a lot of them, and they don't have enough time and energy to do it. So are you aware of Enroll America? Enroll America is across our state. They have an amazing database. And that might be a great opportunity to forge a relationship there that people that have legal issues to accessing health care, you probably can help them if you would like to. And again, open enrollment starting very soon. And also, since a lot of you probably have, I won't ask, but a lot of you probably have had to go through the exchange, the healthcare.gov, to get your own healthcare. If you have a change in your life situation or your clients do, you don't have to go in just during open enrollment. If you have married, there's a divorce, a child, change in job, any of these things, there's a lot of ways to be able to get in earlier to still get the access. There's a lot more stuff that I'm not even going into. Did you know that there's $50,000 of free term life insurance for parents that are between 19 and 42 that make between $10,000 and $40,000? Completely free. There are so many solutions and resources like that. Even if you don't have health insurance, that there are prescription discount programs that can save you some real dollars. There's so many things out there like this that I would love for you to be to have some of these resources to be able to connect your clients to.
Now, this is one of the life insurance. Is that through the United Way?
No, it's through Mass Mutual. If you go to LifeBridge, so if you Google LifeBridge, Mass Mutual, it will pop up as like the first link. You can submit things through there. There's all sorts of information, bilingual in English and Spanish there. But there's tons of these type of things. How many of you know about 211? Okay, a couple people. So if you're in an emergency, what number do you call? Okay, good, because most of you know about that one. So if you need, I don't know where there's an after-school tutoring program. You know, I'm depressed, I'm suicidal, and I need to talk to someone. I need to get my taxes done for free. I hear you need your taxes done for free, but I don't know where to go, and I forgot that one. 211. Anywhere across the country now, you call 211. Each system is a little bit different, some a little bit better than others, but you can call for information. And again, just like in anything, sometimes persistence is required. So, and they got pretty good staff for most of them, but they've got great resources. They've got things that are available for you. And if you want to even use them as a resource to say, in my community, who's doing this? You need to call for help. You can call for connection. If you want ideas based on this, on what's happening in your community, and you don't know where to go to, that's an easy way to start that conversation, start your prospecting list about what relationships you can build to be more successful. So in the end, in all of this, my whole purpose is that I'm trying to change the conversation. Florida in a lot of ways sucks, right? But it's our Florida, our future. We can complain about it, and or we can invest our energy in making it a better place. And so for us, we're trying to change the conversations about who's at risk. It's not the them. And again, in your community, if it's a racial question, because oftentimes the have and have not is a racial thing. When you look at this report, it brings down to local community. It's everybody. Across Florida, well actually, no, I'm sorry, that's in my community. In my community, 60% of African Americans are under the ALICE threshold. And they're not surprised. But they are surprised when they hear that 42% of whites are. This is not a them. Whomever the them is, it's an us. How do we address it? How do we want a better future for our kids? So that when they graduate and they're ready for that better life, that they don't just come back and live with us forever because they can't find a job that can support their needs, right? For our sanity, for our future, we need better options. There's a lot of things that we're doing around this. On that free tax prep thing, there's over $1 billion with a B that's left every year in Washington because people don't file their taxes or don't know how or don't do it correctly. You know about people not filing or not filing correctly, right? Over $1 billion. Our state is doing nothing to help people to draw that down. We are addressing them, and we're asking for slightly over $1 million to start drawing over $1 billion down to people that need it most and that deserve it, and it's theirs. We've already got a sponsor on the committee, a Republican sponsor, because in the end, I've gotten no pushback from any Republican or Democrat on this, because they see it, they understand it, and they want to know what to do. What else can I take to them that can provide hope for the economy, for families, for their district? I'm looking to you now into the future about what we can do about this. We've got some solutions now. We've got a lot of problems. There's not a reason to give up. It's a reason to fight hard. And I really do appreciate this opportunity to share this with you. If you ever, if some of you have 501c3s, or, and again, that might be even an interesting way collectively. You develop a nonprofit that some of your work. Actually, that might be an interesting idea. If you have a collective nonprofit, you can compete for grant funding with the legal aid groups that can fund your local work. What funding is available out there? This report, great stuff to be able to write grants. You need to make a persuasive case about who you're serving and why they're not the them, they're the us. Happy to help you with that. Or if you need connections, happy to help you with that. Because I think you're key to changing this conversation as we move forward. Any questions about the report, what I'm doing, how I can help, anything random? Yes. So if you want one, no one has to take it. But I'll gladly. And actually, there may not be enough for everybody. Should I just put them in the back? People can take them if they want them. Or?
Yeah, we can put them on the table if you want.
Okay. I think I've got some more. If you don't get it, I always. And again, I'll leave some more at the back table there. But in the end, again, I'm a statewide director. I'm based in South Florida, but I get around, and my desire will be to connect you as quickly as possible to someone locally. I will not abandon you in any of this. In the end, I want to make sure that you have someone local that can